The outer edge of the Galactic Empire was usually quiet. Nothing exciting ever happened in Sector V-17. But tonight, something changed. Lieutenant Cray was half asleep in his chair inside Outpost. Theta 6's shift was boring, monitoring long range. Signals from deep space. Nothing had been detected in years. His eyes were closing when a loud beep made his heart jump. He looked at the screen. A red signal flashed across the monitor. Unknown object detected, heading toward Empire territory. "What the?" Cray whispered, sitting up straight. He tapped the console to zoom in. The object was moving faster than anything he had ever seen, faster than warp drive, faster than even the Empire's newest cruisers. He called his supervisor. "Commander Voss, you need to see this." Within seconds, Commander Voss stood beside him, eyes narrowed at the screen. "That's impossible," he said. The object wasn't broadcasting any ID, no comms, no ship code. But it wasn't stealth either. It wanted to be seen. And every time it jumped through space, it left behind strange energy waves that didn't match any known technology. Voss leaned closer. "Run a database check on the ship's silhouette," he ordered. Cray did. A few seconds later, a single result popped up. File name, Tiklas Terran War. Vessel, myth class status, legend, unconfirmed, archive locked. Cray blinked. Terran? As in human? "That's not possible," Voss whispered. "Humans went extinct 400 years ago." The room fell silent. Across the galaxy, inside the Empire's High Command Center on Zarkon Prime, a hologram of the unknown. Ship played on repeat. Admirals, science officers, and war historians all gathered to review it. "This must be a trick," said Admiral Drex, his voice cold. "No human ship has ever been seen in this era. But the design matches the old War Archives," said a historian. "The twin railgun towers, the shadow stealth hull, and the triple-core pulse engine. No other species ever made ships like this." The room filled with quiet tension. Someone finally said what everyone feared. "What if this isn't a trick?" Meanwhile, the mysterious ship kept moving. It had already passed 3 outposts. Outpost Sigma 11 sent for scout drones toward it. All 4 were destroyed before they even got close. Not shot down, vaporized. The ship didn't fire lasers or missiles. It just erased them. Outpost Sigma's last transmission was filled with panic. "This thing isn't just advanced, it breaks our laws of physics. It moves like it's alive. Thinks faster than any AI I've seen. No static." Then silence. Cray sat alone now, staring at the map. The ship's path was clear. It was heading straight toward the Empire's core systems. No detours. No fear. Like it knew no one could stop it, another officer entered the room and whispered, "Did you hear what the Grand Historian said?" "No," Cray replied. "He said this matches a human myth-class warship. Those things weren't just powerful, they were supposed to be unstoppable, built during the last stand, before humans disappeared, but humans lost, right?" Cray asked. The officer shook his head slowly. "That's what we were told, but the history archives are sealed. What if they didn't lose? What if they left?" Inside the Empire's grand vault, deep beneath the planet Siren, ancient files flickered to life. A secret AI once dormant had awakened. Terran energy signature confirmed. Status. Judgment protocol initiated. At the same time, inside the strange ship, Commander Raylan opened his eyes for the first time in centuries. Cryosleep mist curled around him. His body was stiff, but his mind was alert. The ship's voice echoed softly, mechanical but female. "Welcome back, Commander. Target Galactic Empire. Distance, 1.2 light-years. Authorization required to begin cleansing." Raylan stood up slowly, gripping a railing for support. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Authorization, Raylan Alpha 1. Begin mission. Confirmed. Activating weapons. Charging shields. Tracking all Empire fleets. Objective, deliver judgment." Raylan looked out the front screen. Stars shimmered. Ahead, he didn't smile. He didn't blink. Its eyes were full of memories. Memories of betrayal, memories of war, and the last words of his people. When they come for us, again wake up the myth. Far away, Admiral Drex turned to the Emperor himself and said, "We must prepare the full fleet. Whatever that thing is, it's not bluffing." The Emperor's face was pale. He whispered, "This can't be a human ship. It just can't." But deep inside, he wasn't sure anymore, because every story starts somewhere, and this one started with a signal that shouldn't exist. The Empire had long buried its past. Stories of the human Terran conflict were stored deep in locked archives. Citizens were told the war ended with the cleansing of Earth, that the humans were destroyed because they were too wild, too violent to be part of the galaxy's future. But now, something from that past was flying straight toward them. Inside, the Grand Library of Histories on Arcanus for a hunched old alien shuffled between ancient books and cracked holodisks. His name was Malin, old historian, once respected, now mostly forgotten. No one listened to Mal anymore. They called him crazy because he believed humans never died out. He believed they vanished on purpose. When the image of the unknown warship reached Arcanus 4, Mal was alone in the archives, listening to classical Terran music on an old audio. Crystal. Then the transmission came through. He paused the music. The warship hovered in space on the screen. It looked like a beast made of metal and shadow. Mal stared for a long time. His hand trembled as he reached into a drawer and pulled out an ancient sketch drawn by survivors of the First Contact War. Same railguns, same layered armor, same eerie silence. He muttered, "It's real. They really built it." Back on Zarkon Prime, High Command called an emergency meeting. Admiral Drex slammed a projection onto the table, a side-by-side comparison of the current mystery ship and an ancient Terran. Blueprint from the archives. They matched exactly, but that ship was only a theory. A general shouted, "A ghost design. Concept the humans never built." "And explain this," Drex said coldly, pointing to the new footage. "Because whatever this is flying through our patrol zones like we're ants," another officer said quietly, "if the myth class was real. What else did the humans hide before they disappeared? Far across space, on a lonely desert world called Divana. A young, alien woman named Saren tapped into the Empire's restricted data grid. She wasn't a soldier or a historian. She was a mechanic. And she had a secret. Her grandmother longed dedues to tell her bedtime stories of a tall, strange warrior who came from the stars. He spoke in short words, never lied, and once saved their entire village from raiders using only one weapon, a weapon that melted through tanks like paper. She always thought it was just a tale, until she saw the news about the warship. Her eyes widened. She whispered, "Grandmother, you were telling the truth." Inside the Empire's black archive, hidden beneath the ocean floor of Drazar Prime, a vault door hissed open for the first time in 300 years. The AI Guardian, known as Epsilon 3, activated. "Level red threat detected," the AI said, its voice like cold steel. "Terran return probability, 87%. A scientist working there ran to alert the council, screaming, 'It's not a pirate. It's not a rogue AI. It's them.'" On board, the human warship. Commander Raylan sat in the command chair. The ship whispered updates in his ear. Empire fleets gathering near Capital Rim. Estimated arrival, 14 hours. No warning broadcasted. Defensive posturing confirmed. Raylan didn't react. He simply said, "Begin scanning for survivors. Focus on the old cryo colonies. They'll want to wake up too." The ship answered. 3 possible locations found. Coordinates uploaded. But Commander Raylan raised an eyebrow.
Yes.
"Empire has modified the truth. History has been rewritten. They believe we were wiped out. They don't remember what they did." Raylan stood and looked out the giant window at the stars. "They will," he said softly, back in the council chambers. An ancient ambassador named Thalos stood up. His skin was gray with age, his voice rough. "I fought in the last war," he said. "I saw what the humans built. They weren't monsters. They were protectors, builders, thinkers. But when threatened, they became something else. Everyone stared at him. Talos continued. Their final ships were hidden. Their leaders made a choice, not to fight, but to vanish, and leave traps behind. In case we ever tried to erase them completely, a young officer scoffed. So what do we do? Talk to it? Apologize? Talos looked him dead in the eye. You pray it remembers mercy. At that moment, across 3 different star systems, ancient signals began to blink. CRYO-pods warming up. Old Earth. Flags rising from frozen vaults. Hidden satellites transmitting. Activation codes. A sleeping force was waking. Raylan watched the stars and clenched his fists. We asked for peace, he said, his voice filled with old grief. They chose war. The Galactic Council met inside the Great Chamber on the floating station above planet Zorix, where stars shimmered outside the tall glass walls. The chamber was filled with leaders from over 100 alien species. Some were tall and thin, others short and covered in scales. They came from every corner of the galaxy. But today they all shared one thing: worry. A large screen showed Earth, glowing blue and green in the darkness of space. A deep voice spoke from the center podium. It was High Lord Krex of the Verakor Empire. His red skin glowed under the lights, and his black eyes looked serious. Humans, he said slowly. They are dangerous, too fast to learn, quick to grow, too hard to kill. Murmurs filled the chamber. Some nodded. Others looked uneasy. The humans were given spaceflight only a few centuries ago, Krex continued. Now they have outposts near Sector 9. They defeated the Brol in 5 cycles. And they are making trade with the Zethan swarm. If we don't act now, we may be too late. A small alien with silver feathers raised his hand, but they haven't attacked us. They follow peace. They share their medicine, their food, Krex growled. That's how they win. Not by fighting, but by surviving.
Always surviving.
Silence followed, and someone from the back spoke. Then what do you propose? Walk smiled, a slow and cruel smile. We send a test, a challenge, not a war. Just
Kyle?
Let us take a small group of humans and place them on Verakor. Gasps echoed through the room. Class 15 Deathworld. One council member said. That planet kills everything. Even our war beasts can't survive there for more than a week. Exactly, Krex said. Let us see how long the humans last. There were long moments of silence. Then the council voted. Lights flashed across the chamber. Red meant no, green meant yes. By the end, the green lights had won. It was decided. 2 weeks later, secret mission was sent to Earth. A group of human explorers were tricked into entering a transport ship. They thought it was a training mission. Inside were 5 humans, all trained soldiers. Their leader was Captain Daniel Brooksacom, man with sharp eyes and a quiet voice. With him were 4 others: Nina, a tech expert; Carlos, a former mountain survivalist; Jonah, a biologist; and Tessa, a tough engineer. They were used to danger. But they did not know they were being sent to Verakor. They woke up from cryosleep as the ship entered Verakor's orbit. The AI voice greeted them. Welcome to Operation Fireseed. Your mission is to survive and study planet Verakor. You'll be alone for 90 days. Nina looked confused. Verakor? That's not in the mission file? Carlos checked the maps. Wait. Verakor? That's the one with acid storms, right? Daniel frowned. It's worse than that, if I remember right. Nothing lives long on that planet. Still, no one panicked. They checked supplies. They ran checks on their gear. And they dropped to the surface in a landing pod. Above them, hidden far in the clouds, were several council spy ships. Dozens of alien species watched from screens, waiting for the humans to scream, to run, to die. But the humans did not scream. They landed in a red forest, thick with vines and strange glowing plants. The air was heavy. The wind hissed like snakes. Jonah took a sample of the soil. It's toxic, he said calmly, putting on his mask. Tessa began unloading building parts. "Let's set up shelter before the acid storm hits." Daniel looked up at the sky. It was dark, even though it was daytime. He saw lightning dance between clouds. He turned to his team. "You all know the drill. Don't waste energy. Stay smart. Move fast. Let's survive." Within 2 hours, they had built a strong shelter. The walls were heat-resistant. The roof was flexible to bend with the wind. Inside, they made filtered air, light, and even power. From above, the aliens watched. In shock, Krex hissed, "No, this can't be," one of his aides whispered. "Sir, ... They aren't scared. Weren't working like it's just another day." On the ground, Daniel looked at a small drone hovering near a tree. He knew they were being watched. He smirked. "Let them watch," he said. "We'll show them how humans handle nightmares." And then the first storm hit. But the humans didn't run. They braced themselves and smiled. Night on Verakor was something no one ever truly survived. And the sun fell fast, and the forest changed. Trees bent and moved like they were breathing. The ground glowed with strange blue light. The air turned colder and heavier. And then the sounds began, not one sound but hundreds, clicking, growling, snapping branches, deep rumbling, like something huge dragging itself through mud. The alien observers zoomed in through their cloaked spy drones. One of them whispered, Now they'll panic." But they didn't. Inside the shelter, Captain Daniel Brooks finished eating a protein bar and calmly rechecked their defenses. Nina was monitoring movement with her scanner. Carlos was sharpening steel poles. Jonah had set up scent traps using acid-resistant chemicals. Tessa was checking the electrified perimeter wire they had stretched around the camp. Carlos, outside the small window, and saw shadows in the trees. "Something's out there," he said. Tessa replied without fear. "Let it come. The traps are ready." From the treetops, a dark beast crawled silently. It had 6 long arms, claws that dripped venom, and glowing yellow eyes. It was called a Javark. It had killed Vakari, soldiers in minutes. It moved toward the human shelter and stepped right into a tripwire. A loud blast shook the trees as a hidden mine exploded beneath the beast. It flew backward, screeching in pain. More creatures rushed forward from the shadows, hungry and wild. The humans didn't scream. Nina hit a switch. Flames burst from hidden nozzles along the outer wall. 2 beasts caught fire and ran howling into the forest. Another fell into a pit, lined with metal spikes. Jonah fired a long-range taser from the roof and dropped another before it could leap. Then ... silence. Carlos stepped outside, his flashlight in hand, scanning the ground. The jungle was smoking. 3 beasts were dead. 2 had escaped. 1 was crawling away, bleeding. He didn't chase it. He watched ... as the monster looked back. As the monster looked back as full of confusion, it wasn't used to being hunted. And now, for the first time, it ran in the clouds above. Inside the command ship, High Lord Krex stood frozen. They ... They scared a Javark, he said softly. They scared a predator bred to fear nothing. One of his aides replied, "The humans. They didn't just survive, they fought back. Like they've lived here for years." Another voice added, "That was just their first night." Back on the ground, Jonah examined the blood from one of the beasts. He stored it carefully. Fast healing ability. Multiple hearts. "Impressive," he said, almost cheerfully. Daniel looked up at the sky. "They'll send more tomorrow night," he said. Nina nodded. "Then we upgrade our traps. I'll build motion mines with sonic bursts." Tessa smiled. "I can make a lightning cage if I use the spare batteries." Carlos stretched his arms. "Let them come. I could use the exercise." Daniel gave a small laugh. No one was afraid. No one wanted to leave. The jungle watched them. Other predators watched too. They crept close, but stayed far enough. The smell of fire and human metal scared them. The air around the shelter now held a new scent danger. The forest, once king of death, ... Had a new hunter? The humans? One of the aliens watching through a spy drone leaned closer to the screen. What are they? Soldiers? Monsters? No, Krek said quietly. They are something worse. Another council member spoke. We thought the planet would destroy them. Instead, it's learning to fear them. Should we recall the mission? Someone asked. No, Krex growled. Not yet. Let us see how they survive, ... A full cycle. Deep in the shelter, Daniel sat down and wrote in his journal. Day 1, Verakor. The planet is dangerous. Yes, but not impossible. We've faced worse. On Earth, the beasts here are strong but predictable. The weather is brutal, but patterns are clear. The air is toxic but manageable. We can survive. We will survive. Let's see what Day 2 brings. Outside the shelter, the wind howled again. Something large moved in the distance. But it did not. Approach, not tonight. Not yet. The monsters were learning what fear felt like, and it wore a human face. The warship was alive, not just with lights and engines, but with memory, purpose, and wrath. Deep inside the ship's dark core, everything hummed with a low, vibrating power. Ancient systems blinked on, one by one, like stars returning after a long night. Fluid ran through transparent tubes along the walls, glowing blue. Like veins of a sleeping giant, Commander Raylan walked barefoot across the cold metal floor of the bridge. He had just woken from cryosleep, but his steps were steady. Didn't ask what year it was. Didn't care. He already knew it was time. The ship's voice, calm, cold, female, spoke again. Commander Raylan, systems are at 87%. Support is stable. Arsenal online. Shielding active. Your body shows 92% cellular repair. Cryodecay minimal. Raylan rubbed frost off his forearm. His muscles ached, but his heart beat strong. Show me our heading, he said. The giant view screen lit up, displaying a star map. At the center, the heart of the Galactic Empire. Raylan narrowed his eyes. How long until interception? 16 hours, Commander. Raylan moved to the captain's chair. It was more than a seat, it was the command node. As he sat, metal tendrils extended, gently wrapping around his wrists and spine. They didn't pierce his skin. They connected to his nervous system. He breathed in sharply, his vision blurred. Then everything clicked. Suddenly, he was the ship. He could feel the shields buzz softly around the hull. He could hear distant echoes in the subspace channels. He could see through every camera, every drone, every scanning node on the ship. It was overwhelming. It was beautiful. He spoke. It's not aloud, but directly to the ship's core. Why did you wake me now? Judgment protocol was triggered. Multiple. Empire fleets have crossed ancient Terran zones. Signal beacons placed 400 years ago were ignored. 7 outer colonies destroyed. No apologies given. No trial. Just silence. We must respond. Raylan's hands gripped the chair. Status of Earth? Uninhabitable. Surface dead. Terraforming? Failed. Oxygen levels 2%. Radiation off scale. Project Rebirth incomplete. Raylan closed his eyes. Home was gone. But humanity was not. Not yet in the lower levels of the ship. Cryopods still lined the walls, silent, frost-covered. Most were empty. Some had failed. But a few still blinked green. Begin scan for other survivors, Raylan ordered. Scanning cryopods now. 3 possible humans located in stable condition. Cryo decay at acceptable levels. Should I begin? Thawing process? Raylan hesitated. No, not yet. Let them sleep. If I fail, they'll need to try again. The ship paused. Understood. Raylan stood and walked into the war room, a space filled with holographic projections of the galaxy. Dozens of red dots appeared. Empire ships moving, watching, waiting. They think we're just a ghost, he said quietly. Not for long. He touched one of the red dots, an Empire cruiser, orbiting a planet called Tyrek 7. With a single, thought he could launch a kinetic rod strike. A weapon from orbit faster than light, undetectable until impact. Silent and clean. But he did not yet. He remembered the last days before he entered the pod. He was a captain, young but fierce. When the final war broke out, humanity had tried peace. They'd opened borders, shared tech, healed the sick. The Empire feared them, feared their minds, feared their growth, feared their independence. So they struck first, and Earth burned. But humanity didn't die. They hid their best scientists. Soldiers' children inside sleeping ships and cold moons. They buried their weapons. And then, they vanished. The ship spoke again. Interception in 14 hours. Empire fleet strength rising. 5 dreadnoughts detected. They are planning an ambush. Raylan smiled, but there was no joy in it. Let them come. Would you like to send a message? He thought for a moment, then nodded. The ship opened a transmission to all Empire channels encrypted. It's translated undeniable. Raylan's voice echoed through 1,000 systems. You invaded us. You erased us from your history. You thought we were gone. We remember, and we are not alone. You have one choice now. Surrender your weapons and tell the truth, or face what you created. The message ended. Silence followed. Back on Zarkon Prime, chaos spread. The Emperor stood frozen as his generals panicked. That voice is human, one whispered. Another added, he sounds calm. It's calm. And far away, across the Empire's outer rim, citizens began to whisper. Old stories resurfaced. About humans who once saved colonies from plague. About a people who loved music, poetry, and war in equal measure. About a fleet that vanished. Not out of defeat, but by choice. Inside the ship, Raylan returned to the bridge. He looked out at the stars. They don't fear us yet, he said. They will, the ship replied. And then, in the silence of space, the warship accelerated, leaving behind glowing trails of energy that bent the laws of physics. Themselves, the Empire had woken something ancient, something powerful, something human. The Galactic Empire had never been afraid. For centuries, they ruled the stars with unmatched fleets and advanced technology. They crushed rebellions before they even started. They erased entire species without regret. Fear was something other civilizations felt. But now, Empire was afraid, very afraid, because something was coming. Something old. Something human. High. Admiral Calrex stood in the war chamber aboard the Obsidian Crown, the flagship of the Empire Central Fleet. Holographic screens surrounded him, each showing the same terrifying image, a massive warship, black as the void, gliding through space without broadcasting any ID. The Terran Myth-class ship. The humans are extinct. One junior officer said shakily. This must be an AI remnant, or a stolen husk. Calrex didn't answer. He stared at the footage the way the ship erased drones, bypassed scanners, and moved like it was thinking, not just reacting. Thinking. This isn't a remnant, he finally said. This is a message. It's all across. The Empire fleet signals went out. Full-scale alert. Battle protocol crimson. Prepare the line. Every available warship was summoned. Battle cruisers, dreadnoughts, stealth bombers. Orbital cannons, more than 3,000 ships gathered near the capital zone. The largest military formation since the Urxian Revolt. They formed a wall in space so dense, it looked like a metal storm. But it wasn't enough. Not against the ship. That kept moving forward, not against the human who sat inside it. It's calm and silent. Commander Raylan sat motionless in his command chair. As the ship's interface showed him the blockade ahead, thousands of ships, weapons armed, missiles locked. Defensive perimeter detected, the ship informed him. Weapons charge, 89%. Tactical advantage, absolute. Raylan narrowed his eyes. Let them talk first. On the edge of the blockade, the Empire's fleet hailed the approaching ship. Unknown vessel, you are violating restricted space. Identify yourself. Respond immediately. The human warship replied with silence. Final warning. Any continued approach will be considered an act of war. Still silence. Then, without sound or warning, the human ship vanished from their scopes. 1 second it was there on screen. In their sensors. Right in front of them. The next hit was inside their blockade. Not around. Not near. Inside. Right? In the middle of them. Panic exploded across the fleet. Where did it go? Sector 3. No Sector 7. It's behind us. Yes. No, it's inside the sensors are lying. Then the screaming started. On 6 ships, the lights flickered. Systems died. Engines shut down. Gravity twisted. And then, boom. 6 warships exploded. At once ripped apart, not by missiles, but by internal failures. Their own engines had turned against them. Their eyes had been rewritten. Their energy cores melted. The human ship hadn't fired a single bullet. Admiral Calrec shouted, "All ships spread formation. Do not engage blindly." But it was too late. The human warship was moving again, fast, like a ghost. It weaved between ships, unharmed by lasers, untouched by torpedoes. It didn't dodge. The shot simply missed, as if the laws of space bent. Around it, inside the warship, Raylan remained calm. He didn't enjoy destruction, but he understood the message had to be clear. No lies, no excuses. If the Empire wanted a war, they would get it. On the Empire's capital planet, the Emperor himself was watching from a secure bunker. His face was pale. He turned to his top general and asked, "Do we have anything that can stop it?" The general didn't answer because he knew the truth. They had spent centuries building bigger guns, smarter his faster ships. But humans had gone a different way. They had vanished to build perfect silence machines that didn't just fight, but understood in the battle above. The Empire lost 212 ships in less than 5 minutes. Raylan finally spoke. He opened a channel, voice low and firm. "This is your only warning. Lower your weapons. Tell your people the truth. We did not disappear. We waited. And now we remember." Admiral Calrec stared at the screen. "Stand down," he whispered. A second passed. Then his order went out. Thousands of Empire ships slowly lowered their weapons. In that moment, across the galaxy, people watched the live feed in disbelief. The Empire, the great, cruel, unbeatable Empire, was surrendering. To one warship. A human warship. And far away, in secret underground rooms. Long-lost colonies received the same signal. Raylan's voice. The humans were returning, not for revenge, but for truth and justice. The second day on Verakor began with a sky full of fire. Giant clouds twisted above like angry beasts. Green lightning cracked in every direction. Wind howled louder than a ship engine. The planet was angry now, as if it wanted the humans gone. Inside the shelter, Nina tightened her gloves. Her scanner buzzed with warnings. Magnetic storms forming. Winds at 300 miles per hour. Radiation spikes in 20 minutes. Daniel looked at the readings. This storm hits us directly, it could lift the shelter. Carlos grinned. Let's anchor it down like we did back in the Andes. Jonah and Tessa already rolled out the drills. These were human-made, short, thick, and ugly-looking but strong. They drilled deep into the rock below. Then they locked thick cables into the frame of the shelter. Alien drones floating high above watched with interest. One council member, watching live footage, scoffed, "That's primitive tech. They'll be crushed." But as the wind screamed, the shelter held inside. Warm light glowed from portable generators. The walls flexed slightly with the pressure, but never cracked. Rain fell like hammers, but bounced off the carbon-layered roof. Daniel stood near the door, calm and steady. He sipped warm coffee from a metal cup and stared out the small window. "Looks like a normal Tuesday in Kansas," he joked. Meanwhile, in the skies above, the Verakor ship shook. Their own shields strained against the storm. "We have to pull back," shouted one alien pilot. "We can't. "The Council is watching," replied another. But even with advanced alien tech, the ship drifted dangerously, rocking side to side. That same storm the humans were calmly surviving was nearly crashing the observer's own vessel. Down below, the team wasn't wasting time. Nina used a drone to collect storm particles. Jonah was placing test samples outside to see what materials would survive. Tessa ran energy lines into the ground, testing if lightning could be captured safely. Carlos opened a crate and pulled out a strange Dome Earth's newest field generator. It wasn't pretty. It looked like a trash can wrapped in wires. He placed it on the soil, clicked a button, and stepped back. A faint hum filled the air. Then a shimmer like glass in the rain appeared around the camp. "It's working, Nina," said, eyes wide. It was a compact electromagnetic shell, New Earth tech, designed for mining on moons, and it was now protecting them from the deadliest storm in the quadrant. On the alien command ship, Krex watched the footage in silence. "They're adapting," someone said. Another added, "No, they're building, testing. They're using the storm to learn." Krex narrowed his eyes. They should be dying, not growing smarter. One scientist from a peaceful race leaned closer to the screen. "That's what humans do. They don't fear chaos. They organize it." As the storm reached its peak, a bolt of green lightning struck a tree near the camp. The ground shook. Smoke rose. Inside the dome, the team barely flinched. Tessa marked the strike on her tablet. "Let's test if that metal bark is conductive." Jonah nodded. "Could be useful for building a lightning rod system." Outside, the jungle trembled. Creatures had hidden in caves and holes. Even the deadliest beasts of Verakor feared the storm. Only the humans stayed in the open standing, watching and learning. By sunset, the storm faded. Trees were snapped like matchsticks. The river nearby had turned black from ash. But the camp stood untouched. Daniel stepped outside and looked at the broken land. "Now this," he said softly. "This is how we learn to win." Nina followed. Placing a drone in the air, we mapped storm behavior. "We'll predict the next one." Carlos smiled and added, "Next time, we'll cook during the storm." They all laughed. Far above, the council members were silent. One leaned forward and whispered, "Do you think they know we're watching?" Krex stared at Daniel on the screen and said, "I don't think they care." Later that night, as the camp settled, Daniel wrote again in his log. Day 2 Verakor. The planet threw its worst storm at us. We held, we adapted. Our tech is simple, but reliable. We don't rely on shiny machines. We build things that last. We're not trying to fight this world. We're trying to understand it. And that's what will make us win. Above them, thunder rumbled again. But it sounded softer now, like the planet itself was thinking, and maybe ... worried. The council was no longer calm. After 2 full days, the humans had done the impossible. They had not only survived the Deathworld, they had started to control it. The jungle beasts were avoiding them. Storm that should have broken their shelter had helped them learn. It was not going as planned. Inside the main council chamber, leaders argued. They are using this world like a lab. They laugh while monsters run from them. Krex raised a hand. "Enough. We need proof. Maybe their shelter is hidden by luck. Maybe they faked the footage. Let's send our own." The plan was quick. A small team of elite Verakor scouts would land near the human camp. Just a simple check. Record data. Measure human health. Observe closely. They were sure the humans would be sick. ... Losing their minds, they were wrong. The Verakor ship entered Verakor's sky during the 3rd morning. Storms were still fading. Static in the air made communication hard. But the Verakor team felt strong. They wore advanced armor. They had sensor, drones, heat blasters, and environmental shields. They were trained to handle extreme worlds. "Land 3 clicks south of the human base," the commander said. "No contact, just observe." But Verakor had other plans as they came closer to the surface. The ship shook. Gravity spikes pulled hard. Winds spun the craft sideways. One wing tore off in midair. Stabilize. The pilot yelled too late. The ship crashed into the forest. Trees snapped. Fire spread. Smoke rose like a dark signal to the sky from a drone. Above, humans saw it happen. Daniel was drinking morning tea when Nina ran in. Crash site 3 kilometers southeast. Not ours, she added. Alien make. Verakor colors. Daniel stood up. Get medkits. Water. Tools. Let's go. Carlos raised an eyebrow. We're helping them? They'd leave us, Tessa said. Exactly, Daniel replied. Let's show them what humans do instead. The Verakor team crawled from the wreckage, injured, dazed. Their commander had a broken arm. One scout couldn't see. The ship's shield generator was gone. The jungle was closing in fast. They tried to set up a distress beacon, but the system was fried. Their power cells were dead. Food spoiled in the crash. Then they heard footsteps. Weapons were raised. But when the leaves parted, it was the humans. Daniel stood in front. Both hands raised. No weapon. You need help, he said. The Verakor aimed their rifles. We won't hurt you, Jonah added. You're not the first thing to point a gun at us on this planet. Silence. Then the injured commander collapsed. Daniel caught him. Before he hit the ground by noon, the humans had built a temporary camp near the wreck. They cleaned wounds, shared water, set up a tarp to block the sun. Tessa used scraps from the Verakor ship to fix their radio. Carlos shared dried meat bars. Jonah made a jungle herb tea that helped the aliens. Breathe easier. The Verakor didn't speak. Much, they watched, confused, quiet. One young alien, his arm bandaged by Nina, finally whispered, Why? Are you helping us? Daniel looked at him. Because you're hurt. That's reason enough. But we watched you. We voted for this. For your test. Daniel nodded. We figured you should hate us. Carlos laughed. We don't waste energy on hate. We build. We move forward. The alien said nothing more, but in his eyes something had changed that night. The humans stood watch while the aliens slept. Strange sounds still came from the jungle, but nothing dared come. Close, not anymore. The humans were becoming something else. Not just survivors. They were becoming part of Verakor, not guests. Predators. Above. In the council ship, Krex watched through a shaky drone feed. He saw the humans helping his soldiers. He saw laughter. He saw kindness, and it made him furious. They make allies where there should be fear, he hissed. They fix what we break. This was supposed to humble them. They're not humbled. Another voice said softly, They're rising. The next morning, the Verakor commander stood on his feet. His eyes met Daniel's. We'll return. We survived the walk to your camp. Can we tell the truth? Daniel nodded. Yes, but don't just tell them how we lived. Tell them how we helped you. The alien looked away for a moment, then said, I will. As the Verakor limped away, Daniel turned to his team. Pack up, he said. We're moving deeper inland. Let's explore what this world still hides. Tessa smiled. Back into the belly of the beast. Daniel shook his head. No, he said. We are the beast now. It had now been 10 days since the humans landed on Verakor. What was once called a Class 15 Deathworld, a planet where no intelligent life could last, was beginning to look like a place humans could call home. Trees that once hissed with acid were now cut and reshaped into walls. Streams filled with toxic algae were filtered and turned into clean water. Sharp vines that had sliced through alien armor were now woven into traps, baskets, and even hammocks. Captain Daniel Brooks stood on a ridge, crossed, watching his team move like they had lived here for years. Nina directed 3 flying drones, mapping the underground caves nearby. Jonah was carefully feeding a strange lizard-like creature it had been injured, and now it wagged its thick tail when he approached. Tessa had built a gravity-powered water pump using old wreckage parts. Carlos stood at the edge of the tree line, scanning with a handmade sensor stick. Designed with nothing but jungle parts and earth grit, Daniel smiled to himself. Verakor was not winning. Humanity was above them. The alien spy drones recorded everything. The Council's private data was now filled with unbelievable scenes. Humans riding armored jungle beasts with hand-woven saddles, a windmill turning next to a solar panel, both working side by side, alien plants being farmed in neat rows, with notes stuck in the soil. One video showed Jonah petting a predator that once ate a Verakor commander. The Council watched. Silent One member finally muttered, "They are colonizing it." Krek slammed the table. This was not the plan.
At another.
Alien, from a peaceful water-based species, replied no. But perhaps it was the lesson we needed. We feared them because we saw their wars. But look at them now. They are building, not conquering. But they are conquering, Krek snapped. Just not with weapons. Back on Verakor, the team began sending daily broadcasts. Tessa spoke in the first one. "We're alive. Better than that, we're thriving. This world is hard, but it's teachable," Nina added. "We've adapted faster than expected. Even the local animals are getting used to us." Jonah leaned in. "They're not enemies. They're just survivors like us." And Daniel, at the end, looked straight into the camera and said, "Thank you, Council. You sent us here to break us, but you made us stronger. You gave us what every human dreams of, a challenge." That message was picked up across the galaxy. It was played in marketplaces, schools, military bases, and government halls. People stared at their screens in disbelief. These humans didn't fear the Deathworld. They had claimed it. The effect was massive. Some alien civilizations panicked. If they can survive that planet, as one general said, then nothing can stop them. Others tried to hide the footage, but it was too late. Verakor, the impossible world, had been made livable by Earth's children. On the planet, the humans pushed deeper. They built a second camp near volcanic vents, studying new minerals. They crafted armor from beast hide. They even created a sound system to mimic predator calls and clear areas for safety, Carlos joked. "We're the new apex species," Jonah laughed. "Verakor might apply for refugee status if we stay too long." Daniel didn't laugh. He was thinking, "We've made it safe for ourselves," he said. "But maybe others can live here too." "You want to open it?" Nina asked. "Maybe not now, but one day. If we can make peace with the Deathworld, maybe we can do the same with the galaxy." That night, the sky was clear. The stars above looked different now, not distant. Not dangerous, they looked ... possible. Daniel wrote again in his log. Day 10, Verakor. We've changed this place. But more than that, it changed us. It tested us. It stripped us down to nothing. But in that nothing, we found who we are. Are not the strongest, not the smartest, not the fastest. But we don't quit. We don't break. We don't run. We look fear in the eye and build a home on top of it. He closed the log outside. Creature howled in the forest and far in the trees. Another howled back. Daniel smiled. They were no longer guests here. They were part of the ecosystem. Verakor was not a death world anymore. Not for them. It began with a single message. Short, clear, .com. Daniel Brooks, standing in front of a campfire with jungle mist behind him, looked into the drone camera and said, "To the Galactic Council and anyone watching, thank you for the challenge. Verakor was meant to kill us. Instead, it taught us. We're still learning, but we're not afraid. Earth thanks you." The feed was picked up by a listening station orbiting planet Allura and bounced to a trader ship passing through Sector 3. By the next rotation, it spread across 5 systems. In just one galactic week, over 2 billion beings had seen the video, and it didn't stop there. The next video came 2 days later. It was a full report from Nina, Jonah, and Tessa explaining how humans had mapped predator migration, turned acid-resistant vines into construction tools, and filtered poison air using homemade vents and carbon from burned trees. Clips showed humans laughing in acid rain, training jungle birds to deliver messages, and sleeping under lightning-proof fabric made from local plant fibers. Carlos was shown roasting beast meat over a fire, smiling. "We call it Deathworld BBQ," he joked. It didn't look like fear, it looked like life. On peaceful planets, students watched the videos in schools. On military worlds, commanders played the footage. In briefings, one alien general asked his team, "Can our best troops do this?" None of them answered because they knew the truth in the council chamber. The mood had changed. Before they had laughed at humans, now they stared at screens in silence. One elder whispered, "They were never weak, just never understood their strength." Krex, red-faced, slammed his fist. "They're building an image, making themselves look like heroes." But another member said, "Maybe they are." The humans, unaware of the chaos their broadcasts caused, kept working. They built a wind farm from scrap metal. They discovered natural medicine in glowing moss. They even trained a jungle beast once called a nightmare to carry gear on its back like a calm pack animal. Jonah named it Blue because of its glowing eyes. In one video, Blue rested its head on his shoulder like a pet. That moment alone was shared across 10,000 news networks, the humans said one alien anchor, tamed the untamable. One video stood out most of all. Daniel stood before the camera again. "You sent us here thinking we'd break. Instead, we became something more." Verakor didn't defeat us. It made us sharper, smarter, tougher. This isn't just survival anymore. This is home building. And if we can make peace with a death world, maybe we can do the same with the rest of you. His words echoed across space. Reactions were mixed. Some alien worlds began studying human methods, curious about their survival tactics. Others burned the videos, afraid their own people would admire Earth too much in the outer colonies. Smaller species, those often ignored or bullied, started whispering, "If humans can survive Verakor, maybe they'll protect us too." Hope had begun to spread because humans were not claiming power by force. They were earning respect by resilience. Back on Verakor, life continued. Jonah discovered a healing flower that worked better than council medicine. Tessa had begun drawing maps. Preparing for long-term building, Carlos planted seeds taken from Earth to test if Earth life could grow in Verakor's soil. Nina kept the drones flying, sending data back to Earth. Daniel kept writing. Day 14, Verakor. They're watching us now, not with hate, but with interest. Let them watch, let them learn. The death world didn't scare us, it inspired us. The galaxy is changing, and maybe that's a good thing. As night fell, the jungle howled but didn't approach. The humans sat around the fire. A soft blue light glowed from the trees. Carlos threw another log on the fire. "Think the council regrets sending us?" Daniel smiled. "Hope not." "Why?" "Because we're not done yet." And in the dark sky above, another drone blinked red. Still watching, still recording, still learning what it meant to be human. In the Grand Council Hall, the room was full, but no one spoke. All eyes were locked on the large screen at the front. It played footage taken. Just hours ago, a massive jungle fire burned on Verakor, started by a lightning strike spreading fast through acid trees and dry vines. Even the strongest beasts had fled. But the humans, they didn't run. They moved like a machine. Daniel barked orders while smoke filled the sky. Nina flew drones to spot safe paths. Carlos carried a small alien creature in his arms, saving it from the flames. Tessa used a portable water unit to slow the fire's edge. Jonah shielded Blue, their trained jungle beast, under a thermal blanket, and then, in the middle of the chaos, the humans lit controlled fire lines, sacrificing part of their own camp to stop the flames from spreading. It worked. The jungle fire died out. The shelter stood, and in the middle of the ash, the humans stood tall, live. The footage ended. Silence hung in the air. Then one council member finally spoke. They didn't just survive, they protected the planet. Another whispered, "We would have evacuated, died." One of the elder members slowly stood. "We were wrong." Krex, red-faced, stared at the screen. This is theater. They knew they were being watched. Perhaps the elder replied, but who survives on Verakor for 3 weeks just to put on a show? No one answered because they all knew. This wasn't a show. It was real, and it changed everything across the galaxy. The reaction was explosive. On peaceful worlds, statues were built in honor of the humans on Verakor, on warlike planets. Generals asked themselves, if they turned a Deathworld into a base, what would they do in war? On trade planets, shops sold models of Blue, the jungle beast who had become a symbol of unexpected friendship. Even children now played pretend, wearing goggles and building fake shelters, shouting, "We're the Earth Team. We don't quit." Humanity had become more than a threat. They had become legend. On Verakor, the team had no idea how far their message had reached. They just kept working. Tessa finished building the second outpost near a hot spring Nina designed. A basic satellite to improve their long-range signal. Carlos crafted a jungle calendar, tracking changes in beast movement. Jonah released 3 small creatures they had nursed back to health. Daniel sat by the fire, reading old logs, silent when. He looked up. He saw a ship in the sky. It wasn't a council ship. It was from a small, peaceful alien race called the Inari. They landed carefully and stepped out, unarmed. One Inari elder walked forward and bowed slightly. "We saw your messages," he said, voice shaking. "We believed the council. We thought you would die." Well, stood slowly, and now the elder smiled. Now, ... we asked for help. By sunset, the humans had welcomed the Inari into their camp, shared food, water, shelter. They gave them copies of maps, taught them about local plants. The same Deathworld that was supposed to end humans ... had become a place where others came for hope, back on Earth. The message from the council finally arrived. Not a threat, not a warning, just ... a request. "Return home if you wish," it read. "Your test is complete. Your message is heard. We see now what humanity is, and we are no longer laughing." Daniel read the message aloud to the team. Carlos leaned back. "So ... do we go?" Tessa shrugged. "What's left for us back there?" Jonah smiled. "Verakor still has secrets," Nina added, "and new friends." Daniel looked up at the stars. Then he replied, "We stay." That night he wrote his final log. Day 21, Verakor. They sent us here to fall. Instead we rose. We turned. Fear into strength. Isolation into teamwork. Death into life. Now others are coming not to test us, but to join us. Verakor is no longer a death world. For us, it's the beginning of something greater. He closed the journal. Outside, the wind blew gently. The jungle was quiet, not in fear, but in respect.